Welcome in, and you are talking with the Meeples Champion. We're on day 20, and get ready because we're bringing in today currently which ranks for me as my number one game of all time. Now, me and my board game group decided after the pandemic, when we started playing again, that about 6 months in, we were like, let's go to this new setup, or to be honest, I don't know how old it was, but it was new to me, the pubmeeple.com, put in all the games that we own, and rank them. Figure out, all right, for each of us, where does our collection go? Now, we also included an additional list where we brought in the games we've played that we don't own from other people's collections. Now, my collection alone is close to 300 games. On top of theirs, my list ended up, I think, closing in on 500. And this game came in the number one spot and was pretty definitive. So as we do this countdown of 365 days, I'm really excited because not only am I going to be doing the review of most of my own games, I'm going to be asking them to borrow games. I'm going to be trying new games and bring them in. I will have a few that will be games that nobody's heard of before because I'll be reviewing for some potential Kickstarters or brand new games going to stores that I've already talked with some people about. And I'm wondering where this game is going to hold for its spot. Will it still be number one? Will it make top 5 or top 10? You never know. But for now, the number one game for me, Clank. I love Clank. I think that this game is so innovative. Now, I know that when it comes to a deck builder, this is not the original. And for me, it was. This was my entrance to deck building. Outside of, if you had ever played one of the collectible card games, I wasn't a Magic fan, but I did play Yu-Gi-Oh! Back in the day for a few years. If you aren't looking at those, when it comes to a straight game, for me, this was my entrance to a deck builder. And I love the concept of this game. The fact that you're moving on the board. The fact that this company has a double-sided board that just allows you a little shift in how you play. And, well, it's not going to be a full review. Very quickly, they did do small expansions that gave you additional double-sided boards. Not that expensive, and allowed you to jump in and continue to play with your original game in an all-new area with slight adjustments. Really cool stuff I want to do reviews on again at some point post the 365. But for now, focusing on the core game, it still comes with that flip the board, 2 options on how you play, loads of cards. You know, what do you want to go for? Are you collecting because you want to be fast? Are you collecting because you want to be strong, be able to fight the monsters? Are you collecting so you can build up your overall amount of points to spend to buy new cards? Or are you focusing more on trying not to make clanking sounds because you don't want to be caught by the dragon? Is your objective that you're trying to get the most victory points via the cards? Or is it more about you're trying to get more money so that you can not only get the points, but be able to buy your additional accessories while you're going through the dungeon, allowing you that opportunity to get through a locked door? Or the opportunity that you're now going to be able to carry 2 of the artifacts instead of 1, and you're going to go all out and try to get 2 of the big ones and get out of there. It's so many ways to play, and from what I've seen, because of the random factor, how is the deck going to shuffle? How many monsters are you going to fight early compared to late, or what kind of cards show up? What are you dealing with when it comes to stepping on a spot and getting a small or a large secret? Exactly where are these basic elements of the game randomly going to be assigned that will give you that you have decision making, but sometimes you do get shuffled in a certain way, or the decision that you went that in game 1 you decimated people because you had speed. Game 2 didn't work out the same way because it turns out all the things you thought you were going to get from game 2 were not the same as game 1, and suddenly that speed was a hindrance and not a help. I love that. I think that the theme is really strong. That fear of being in a dungeon and the dragon getting you. You know, as you make a decision to, I'm not going to spend a sword to fight this monster as I move through, and I'm going to just take a direct damage. And suddenly you realize you made a lot of clank early, and now it's late game, and that dragon's starting to hear you. That can be bad. Or the fact that, yeah, maybe I didn't make a lot of noise, but that doesn't mean that randomly it's not me chosen out of the bag. And suddenly you go, hey, there's 4 of us playing, and there's 40 things in that bag, and only 4 of them are me. Odds are pretty good, and suddenly, oh, big grab, 3 of them are yours, and you're like, how? How did it get me 3 times? I'm almost dead now. I love it. I think it's a really strong theme. The art, really nice. This is an art that really fits the theme and the feel of the game. I appreciate each of the cards. I appreciate the board. When you're talking about the uniqueness of the game, maybe the game isn't unique when it comes to its individual elements. Yes, it's a deck builder. And while it was an introductory for me, it's already got a bunch pre and a whole bunch since post. So it's not that unique in that ability. The moving on the board isn't that unique. The ability to upgrade yourself by getting those extra pieces isn't that unique. But when you throw it all together, I feel like the experience of the game is unique. It is something that you don't run into with a lot of other games. And I appreciate the fact that they came out with something that was different, and the community really embraced it. I own everything for Clank. I'm an all-in person. Not because, like somebody who collects a lot of Monopoly games, where they just want to keep getting more on their thing and every one of them shows a theme and you're a supporter. It's not that. I use all of these games. I might start to say, well, I'm bored of the original map, but let's use the water map. Or let's go into the Mummy's Tomb. Or why don't we switch it up and we're going to use the space version of the game now? Why don't we go to the casino? I like the fact that I do have different locations to use. And maybe that's part of the reason the game hasn't burnt out for me. But I've played on the basic board with the basic cards dozens and dozens of times. And I'm never disappointed. And I'm never like, oh, let's play something else. I'm usually pretty excited when somebody wants to play Clank. So I really don't feel that the game is getting old. I think it's worth its money. This game tends to go for about 50 to 60. Definitely worth the price. It's an average price for most games these days, and this one far exceeds what you're getting for what you're paying. I think that it's very easy to get. You're going to find this online. You're going to find this in Barnes & Noble. You're going to find this in Target. You're going to find this in potentially a Walmart. It's unlikely, but it could happen. But you will find it in every board game store. Now, tracking back a little bit there, I have seen this at a Target, maybe once. And I don't even think it was in the Massachusetts area, which is where I'm from. This might have been my trip in Arizona. So this may not be as much of a Target game. It's definitely an Amazon game, and it's definitely a Barnes & Noble game. Those are norms. I see it every time. May not be a norm for a Target. I've looked into it. I've heard from people from different parts of the country that their Targets have a little bit of a shift in what they supply. Whereas in Barnes & Noble, I find that it's pretty much consistent. Everywhere I go is the same games. And I haven't really heard anybody pointing out that big shift. So, easy to get, but just be aware of that. Don't be going to your local Target expecting this will obviously be there. It may not be. And as far as beyond those features of the game, would I recommend that somebody play this before they buy it? Yes, I recommend that for every game. I think you should always try to play if you can before, or at least go online and watch a how-to video. I've had games before that I'm not sure about, and I'll watch a how-to video on them repetitively because I start to feel that gameplay. I remember the first time I played Twilight Imperium, I watched an entire 8-hour playthrough. Now, it took me about 4 days, but I did watch the playthrough. So don't be afraid of a playthrough. Don't be afraid to talk to a friend, see if somebody has one that you can play with them or borrow. But at the same time, if there's any game I'm going to say, this game's fine, buy it on the spot, don't worry about having to play it first, this is one I would take the risk on. I think it's fine. I don't think anybody's going to have an issue with this game. It's going to be fun. Everybody's going to enjoy it. I don't think kids can't play the game. I think it's very engaging for them, but they might have to be a little bit on the older side, at least 7. I've played this with teenagers. I don't think I've gone below really about 17 years old, but it was easy. They picked it up very quick. I don't think this is a hard game to learn. And that's always an important feature too. This is not a game where you're sitting there looking at the rule book, flipping through every single minute. You're going to put this game down. You're going to do an initial quick, somebody prepped. And the game kind of outlines itself. It's pretty straightforward. So, as I said, today is day 20. This is Clank, and I highly recommend. You've been talking to the Meeples champion. I'll see you tomorrow on day 21. Until then.